The rain fell like shattered glass that night, cold, sharp, and relentless. The city streets glistened under the flickering streetlights, and somewhere between the silence of despair and the hum of passing cars, a young girl stood frozen at a crosswalk, her white cane trembling in her grasp. Her lips quivered as she whispered to no one, "I can't see anymore." Her voice cracked, fragile like a wilted flower in the storm. At that moment, a man who had been driving his old pickup nearby saw her, saw the fear, the loneliness, and something else he couldn't explain. He stopped without thinking. If you believe that kindness, compassion, and second chances can change lives, then take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your small act of support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. The man's name was Daniel Reeves, a 38-year-old single father whose life had been defined by struggle and sacrifice. He worked long shifts at a local repair shop, his hands constantly stained with oil and grit. His only reason for surviving the long, empty nights was his 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, whose laughter somehow filled the void his late wife had left behind. Losing her in a car accident 3 years ago had shattered him. He'd built walls around his heart since then, convinced that life had taken enough from him already. But that night, when he saw the blind girl standing helpless in the downpour, something inside him cracked open again. He pulled over, grabbed his jacket, and ran toward her. She stood completely still, clutching her cane like a lifeline. The world to her was nothing but sound and memory. Her long brown hair clung to her face, soaked and heavy. "It's okay," Daniel said softly as he guided her off the road. She flinched at first, unsure of who he was, but his voice was calm, steady, warm, protective. Her name was Emma. She was 24, and she had lost her sight 2 years ago in a fire that took both her parents. Since then, she had been living alone in a small apartment nearby, relying on touch, memory, and the kindness of strangers. She had always been independent, refusing to ask for help unless it was absolutely necessary. But that night, she had stepped out to get groceries, only to find herself lost when the rain blurred her sense of direction. Daniel offered her a ride home. She hesitated but finally agreed, her body shivering from the cold. Inside the car, she could feel the engine rumble beneath her and smell the faint scent of oil and rain. He didn't speak much, but something about his silence made her feel safe. When they reached her apartment, she thanked him with a trembling smile and said, "Most people just walk past when they see me. Thank you for stopping." Daniel nodded, unsure what to say. He wanted to tell her that she reminded him of hope itself, fragile yet unbroken. But all he managed was, "Anytime." Then he drove away, not realizing that her voice would echo in his head long after he got home. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed again, first by chance, then by intention. One morning, while Daniel and Sophie were walking through the park, they saw Emma sitting on a bench, her fingers tracing the raised dots of a braille book. Sophie, curious and fearless, walked right up to her and said, "Hi. My name's Sophie. What's your name?" Emma smiled, recognizing the same voice that once whispered comfort to her in the storm. "Emma," she replied. From that moment on, Sophie adored her. She would visit Emma after school, bringing her wildflowers and little gifts she made from paper. Emma taught her how to read Braille letters, and in return, Sophie described the world to her, the colors of the sunset, the sparkle of rain, the way clouds changed shapes. Through Sophie's innocent words, Emma began to see again, not with her eyes, but with her heart. Daniel noticed the change too. Whenever he came to pick up Sophie, Emma's face would light up, and something about that light began to thaw the coldness in him. They started spending more time together. He'd fix small things in her apartment, the broken faucet, the squeaky door, the heater that never worked. She'd make tea and sit nearby, listening to the rhythm of his work, her mind painting pictures of him through sound. His voice became her world, steady and reassuring. But as their bond grew, so did Daniel's fear. He knew the pain of losing someone he cared about. He didn't want to open his heart again, only to have it torn apart by life's cruel unpredictability. And Emma, despite her growing feelings, believed she could never be enough for someone like him. How could a blind girl, living in darkness, offer anything to a man who had already lost so much? One evening, as winter approached, Daniel received devastating news. The repair shop he worked for was shutting down. He'd lose his job by the end of the month. The thought of not being able to provide for Sophie terrified him. He began working odd jobs, coming home late and exhausted. Emma noticed the change in his tone, the silence that grew heavier each day. She wanted to help, but didn't know how. One night, as he sat on her couch, head in his hands, she reached out and touched his arm gently. "You fix everything for everyone else," she said softly. "But who fixes you, Daniel?" Her words broke him. For the first time in years, he let the tears fall. He told her everything, about his wife, the accident, the endless guilt, the fear of failing his daughter. Emma listened quietly, her fingers tracing the scars on his palm as if she could feel the story hidden there. When he finished, she whispered, "You're not broken, Daniel. You're just tired of carrying everything alone." That night marked a quiet beginning of healing for both of them. Winter came hard that year. One morning, Emma collapsed while walking to the nearby center for the blind. She had been skipping meals to save money after her small disability allowance was cut. When Daniel found out, he rushed to the hospital with Sophie by his side. Seeing her frail and pale on the bed tore something inside him. He sat beside her, holding her hand, whispering, "You don't have to face everything alone anymore. You have us now." Emma's eyes filled with tears she couldn't see. "I can't see you," she said, "but I can feel you. And sometimes, that's even more real." After her recovery, Daniel refused to let her go back to her empty apartment. He invited her to stay with them for a while. At first, she resisted, but Sophie's excitement and Daniel's quiet insistence won her over. The house, once filled with silence and memories of loss, began to feel alive again. Emma filled it with warmth, helping Sophie with schoolwork, teaching her patience, and even helping Daniel start a small repair business from their garage. Her blindness never stopped her. She memorized the layout of tools by touch and became his silent partner in every sense. As months passed, their small business grew, and so did their love. It wasn't the loud, passionate kind, it was gentle, built on shared pain, mutual respect, and the simple joy of being there for each other. Daniel often caught himself watching her from afar, the way her fingers brushed along surfaces, her serene smile when Sophie laughed. He realized he didn't see her as the blind girl he'd met that stormy night. He saw her as the light that had brought him back to life. But life, as always, had one more test. One afternoon, Sophie went missing on her way home from school. Panic spread like fire through Daniel's chest. He and Emma searched the streets, calling her name. Emma, guided only by instinct, followed the faint sound of crying down an alley. She stumbled, fell, but didn't stop until her hands found Sophie, trembling behind a dumpster. A stray dog had frightened her, and she had run off. Emma held her close, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you." When Daniel found them, his knees gave way. Seeing Emma, bruised and shaking, holding his daughter as if she were her own, broke whatever walls were left inside him. That night, as they sat together, he took her hands and said, "You may not see the world, Emma, but you've shown me how to see it again." They both cried, tears not of pain but of release, of acceptance, of love. From then on, Emma became not just part of their lives, but the heart of it. She and Daniel built a future together, slowly, imperfectly, but beautifully. Sophie adored her as if she were the mother she'd lost, and Daniel loved her in ways words could never fully capture. Every morning, he'd guide her hand to the sunlight streaming through the window and whisper, "This is what hope feels like." And she'd smile, because she already knew. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Silent Hope, where stories of kindness, resilience, and love remind us that miracles still exist in the smallest gestures. Before we end, comment below, do you believe that sometimes, people who can't see the world still end up showing others how to truly live in it? And as the final line of this story lingers, remember this. Love doesn't need eyes to see. It only needs a heart brave enough to feel.